All right, how's everybody doing? Let's see, we should be live here on Facebook and YouTube. How's everybody doing today? Hotep. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. So it is Friday, July 5th, 2019, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. Want to come on here for just a few minutes and let you know about the online course that is starting in a few minutes here at our online school. So normally I do the course on Wednesday nights, but I was getting ready for African Unity Day on Thursday, July 4th. So we had to postpone the class until tonight. All right. But it is called Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So it's an 8-week, 16-hour online course. We do it live, and the sessions are recorded, so you can go back and watch it over and over again. So we're going to jump into the class in a few minutes here once I finish this broadcast. But we're posting the information here on the thread of the broadcast, so you can register for it if you'd like to. It's $80 for the full course, regularly $130. You can go back and watch it over and over again. There's about 36 hours of bonus content also. Okay, so I wanted to go over briefly some of the information that we cover in the online course. How's everybody doing? Arthur, Michelle, Asaru, watching us on Facebook, and then also on our YouTube channel. We have people watching us on our YouTube channel as well. Okay, so let's jump into this here. So when we look at the transatlantic slave trade, we have to understand that even though August 20th, 1619 did happen, and this year is the year of return, and we have people talking about the 400th year anniversary of Jamestown, Virginia, August 20th, 1619. Even though that did happen, there were African people here in the land we call the United States of America, going back at least 51,700 years. Dr. David Imhotep deals with this in his fantastic book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. The first Americans were Africans, documented evidence. Then also, we know that we were in South America going back at least 56,000 years ago, but there's new evidence to suggest that we were there at least 100,000 years ago. Okay, so just very briefly here, we deal with thousands of years of history in the online course, and we deal with not just the Khoisan, who come from Southern Africa, and they go all around the world. In 2004, Dr. Albert Goodyear, who's an archaeologist at the University of South Carolina, made a discovery in Allendale County, South Carolina, and he discovered in his group discovered 13 different types of evidence thoroughly documenting an African presence in this country going back at least 51,700 years ago. Now, some people may ask the question, well, why is this so important? This was so long ago. Well, the way they teach the history or misteach the history in our children's schools, and the way most African Americans understand this history, is that we first came to this land sometime in the 15th century. So it may be, or 16th century, I should say, maybe 1619. That's what most people think, August 20th, 1619 in Jamestown, Virginia. Or it may have been in 1555, or it may have been in 1513 when Spanish conquistador Juan Ponce de Leon comes into Florida with Juan Garrido. Juan Garrido was an African man. It may be in the 1520s when the Spanish are taking Africans into the territory we today call South Carolina and enslaving them in the 1520s. This is 100 years before Jamestown, Virginia. But what happens when our children, what happens when African Americans find out that this was our land stolen from us? What happens when we understand that we're not guessing this land? This was our land stolen from us. Yes, the transatlantic slave trade did happen, but we were here for tens of thousands of years before the transatlantic slave trade happened. What happens when we understand that we were here before Native Americans came into existence? This has a seismic shift on our mindset in how we understand history, how we understand the images that are being fed to us. So your thoughts create feelings, your feelings create actions and behaviors, your actions and behaviors create results, and power is the ability to define and shape reality and have other people accept your definition of reality as if it were their own. Okay. All right. How's everybody? How you doing, Kate? And we'll post this link here as well on the thread of the broadcast also, so you can register for the course as I speak. Okay. Because we're only here for a few minutes. Then I have to switch over to the online school in Crowdcast and start teaching the class here. Okay. So here's what they found. They found artifacts, architecture, campsites, carvings, Egyptian writings, footprints in lava, genetic M174D haploid groups dealing with DNA and genetics, linguistics, paintings, skulls, skeletons, structures, and tools. 13 different disciplines thoroughly documented the African presence in this country going back at least 51,700 years ago. His book has 713 footnotes. Now, this is just one of the many books we use in the course. You don't have to buy any of these books to follow along in the course. I use it to document what I'm talking about and support what I'm talking about. We have cite about 50 articles as well. Tonight's class, we're going to get into really the history of the Moors, their 800-year occupation in Europe. And this leads to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Okay, this is what is extremely important for people to understand. Historical events don't happen in a vacuum. They are the culmination of a sequence of historical events. And when we understand what happened those 800 years that the Moors are in Africa, in Europe, and the resentment that builds up by Europeans against these African Moors, and the Moors intermixing with the Europeans and changing the complexion of Europeans also as well. This is something that became a huge issue. So when we discuss the transatlantic slave trade, we have to first understand that African people are the original people in North, Central, and South America. We can't start studying our history in slavery, even though when we study the transatlantic slave trade, which is important to study, we can't start in 1619 or the 1440s when the Portuguese get involved, because the Portuguese dominate the transatlantic slave trade for the first 200 years, basically 1440 to 1640. We have to understand the history chronologically and deal with the 800-year occupation of the Africans known as the Moors, who entered the Iberian Peninsula, today known as Spain and Portugal, from North Africa in 711 AD. They go on originally 710 AD for a reconnaissance mission to find out the lay of the land, find out what's going on. Then they go back in 711 AD. Okay. And what we have to understand, this is going to set up Columbus setting sail on his 4 voyages, August 3rd, 1492, when he set sail on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. And Columbus is crucial to understanding the spread of slavery, racism, capitalism, the exploitation of indigenous people, etc. Very quickly, this is a article from ScienceDaily.com that you can read. It's from November 18th, 2004, called New Evidence Puts Man in North America. New evidence puts man in North America 50,000 years ago. 50,000 years ago. And this is about Dr. Albert Goodyear's discovery. ScienceDaily.com is a scientific website that deals with scientific discoveries, things like this. Okay. All right. Let's see here. How's everybody doing? Everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page and YouTube. Invite your friends to tune in. Here's a summary of their article about Dr. Albert Goodyear's discovery. This is a picture of Dr. Albert Goodyear here. He just happens to be white. It says radiocarbon tests of carbonized plant remains where artifacts were unearthed last May along the Savannah River in Allendale County by University of South Carolina archaeologist Dr. Albert Goodyear indicate that the sediments containing these artifacts are at least 50,000 years old, meaning that humans inhabited North America long before the last ice age. Now, this is before Native Americans come into existence. This is before Native Americans come into existence. So you have the evidence is there. You have people that don't want to accept the evidence or don't want to put forth the evidence. Okay, so among a number of things we deal with the Moors. We deal with the Moors taking the teachings from ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet into Europe, bringing Europe out of the Dark Ages. We look at the Washington Monument. That's an ancient African symbol called a tekken or an obelisk in Greek. There were about 1,200 tekken or tekkenu all throughout ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, which is a symbol of resurrection. And Queen Charlotte Sophia, we'll talk about her tonight. Queen Charlotte Sophia. Let me see, where is what I want to go to quickly here. Let's see. But we deal with a number of different things in the course. Yeah, here we go, right here. This one I'm going to go to. We deal with what role did Christopher Columbus play in the transatlantic slave trade spreading? What was the transatlantic slave trade? What were some of the events that led up to it starting? Because you have to understand all of this chronologically. Okay, if you don't understand it chronologically, understand cause and effect, you're going to be confused. And unfortunately, the way it's taught, the way the history is taught, we start in the 15th century, mid 1400s, something like that. And we're not dealing with what led to this happening. When we understand the transatlantic slave trade chronologically, we understand that it is really Europeans getting revenge on Africans for what happened in Europe. Okay. And one of the things that they do, like in the British colonies and the Spanish colonies with slavery, the enslavement of African people, one of the first things they do is pass anti-miscegenation laws and enforce anti-miscegenation laws. What is that? That was designed to keep African men from intermixing with white women. Now, it was also designed to keep white men from intermixing with black women, but they didn't stop. So when you understand what happened in Europe, okay, when you understand what happened in Europe, they wanted to stop that from happening in the colonies that they were in the areas that they were conquering. Okay, just like in the 13 colonies, they're trying to stop that from happening, because if that kept going on, they knew that it would just they would just be totally wiped out. And a resentment built up against Africans and a hatred for higher concentrations of melanin, dark skin, all this stuff is going to develop. And what's interesting to note is that in 1619, when those 29 Africans came in at Jamestown, Virginia, Port Comfort, on the White Lion slave ship, in Jamestown, Virginia, they didn't have any slave laws at that time. In none of the 13 colonies did they have slave laws at that time. Okay, so we have to understand how this evolved. Let me see something here. I'm trying to pull up another slide. I'm not sure if I have it here, but we deal with a lot of archaeological discoveries also. We deal with the why Christmas is celebrated on December 25th. Deal with things like, so this ties into ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. That's Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene. We deal with origins of the word America, and also origins of the word Africa as well. We know that in the 1828 Noah Webster Dictionary, it defined an American as the Aboriginal or copper-colored races found in the Americas by Europeans, which means that the term American did not originally apply to Europeans. Okay. We do with the problem with slave movies, and talk about the Roots remake as well. Why do they want to keep depicting us as slaves? Okay. George G.M. James in the book Stolen Legacy talked about how the Moors were the custodians of the ancient Egyptian mystery system. So all this history is tied together. All right. And I deal with what the Moors introduced into Europe also. Okay. Let's see something here. So we talk about the national flags of Corsica and Sardinia, who have African Moors heads on them. All right. A lot of these things are in plain sight. A lot of these symbols are in plain sight. But if you don't understand what the symbols mean, you don't understand the history behind the symbols. They can just put a lot of things that deal with our history and culture right in front of us. And if we don't know what it means, we think they created it. Okay. All right. And then understanding Christopher Columbus is so important. The reason why is because, contrary to popular belief, Columbus never came to the land we call the United States of America. The closest he came here is Cuba, which is 90 miles away. Okay, when we look at where he went on his 4 voyages, and if you go to history.com, which is the official website of the History Channel, just search for Christopher Columbus. They'll show you where Columbus went on his 4 voyages. You know, he never comes to the land we call the United States of America. How you doing, Donna, Swollen, Kate? Just a few of the people watching here. Okay, so we're going to post the information here again on Facebook and on our YouTube channel. It's also on the homepage of our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. It's also there as well. Okay, because I have to jump into the class. So it's a 8-week, 16-hour online course. You normally meet on Wednesdays, but because of the 4th of July, I was getting ready for an all-day event, 19th Annual African Unity Day in Detroit, so I had to postpone the class. So we're about to do it in a few minutes here. So it's 8 weeks, 16 hours, normally meets on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do it live. You can ask questions during the class, during the live chat. And all the sessions are recorded, so you can go back and watch it over and over again. There's also about 36 hours of bonus content for you to watch. So as soon as you register, you start watching the bonus content as well. Okay. And let's see. We also have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right. And it's suitable for teenagers as well. It's not vulgar. I don't do cursing in the class. You know, it's nothing like that. Okay. Let me see something here. What else do we have here? Let me look at something here. 247. Kemet, the land of the blacks before Europeans renamed it Egypt. Yeah, Kemet meaning the land of the blacks. One of the original names for Kemet also is Ta Mary, meaning the beloved land. Okay, Kofi, Arlene, Chase, Michael, just a few people watching on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep as well. All right. Let me look at a couple more slides here. Just a second. Doing good. All right. Because I'm going to have to jump into class here in a minute. Let me show you one last thing here. Yeah, so we deal with Hannibal Barca in the Battle of Cannae 216 BC. We deal with different parts of history, different aspects of history. Deal with what was the transatlantic slave trade, understanding that. Let's see. I'm trying to look through some of the slides and just show you a couple of things here. I deal with a timeline of history of some significant events for us to look at also. Okay, that's extremely important. Then also we deal with the 3 great West African kingdoms of Ghana, Songhai, and Mali. Because while Ghana, Songhai, and Mali, while West Africa is flourishing, Europe is still in the dark ages. And Europe is dealing with civil wars. Europe is dealing with famine, disease, ignorance. And it's going to be the teachings that Africans take into Europe that's going to bring Europe out of the dark ages. And all that stuff is going to come back to kick us in the behind also. This is why I say I wish we had never taught them. Because all that stuff, when you understand what happened in Europe with the Moors, all that stuff we taught them came back to kick us in the behind. The metallurgy, the firearms, the chemistry, what was called alchemy, the nautical instruments, all that came out to kick us in the behind. But we talk about Ghana, Mali, Songhai, some as well, to put things in historical perspective. And then also, see, you have the Almoravids, who were one of they were more of a group of religious zealots. But the Almoravids were Moors, and they're going to invade Ghana twice, 1054 AD and 1076. And this is going to weaken Ghana, ultimately lead to the fall of Ghana. All right. So this is just a sample of some of the things we do with. This is why it's a lot of information. This is why it is a 8-week, 16-hour online course. Okay. Last time I taught it, I think it was only 14 hours. I added some additional things. May go a little more than 16 hours because this is a lot. And there have been so many new archaeological discoveries. Last time I taught this class live was September 2017. So there have been so many new archaeological discoveries, just like the Clotilda slave ship, the last known slave ship that came into the U.S. in June or July of 1860. That was, they just found that like a couple of months ago. There've been archaeological discoveries, things like this. So a lot of this newer information I'm incorporating into the course. Okay, so we posted a link here. You can register here. We posted it on our Facebook on the thread here. It's also right on the homepage of our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Just click on the link, follow the prompts, and it'll enroll you. You can go back and watch the two previous courses that we've already done. It's about 36 hours of bonus content. The course is regularly $130. It's on sale $80. You can watch this from around the world, watch it over and over again also. Okay. All right. And those in Chicago, I'll be in Chicago July 13th for the Black Agenda Tour. Visit blackagendaontour.com. And those in Atlanta, I'll be back in Atlanta July 19th through the 21st for the Black Homeschooling Conference, the Liberated Minds Black Homeschooling Education Expo. If you have taken this online course with me in the past, anytime in the past, email me at customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and I'll enroll you at 50% off. Okay. If you've taken this course anytime in the past, email me at customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and I'll enroll you 50% off. Okay, Trey Lee. Okay, Trey's been doing some research, or he's been listening to me, because he talked about the fire stick. The Moors introduced the fire stick, something called a fire stick, into Europe. And it was a long stick that fired run projectile. And they were killing some Europeans with it also. And then Europeans take this technology, and in the mid 14th century, they make the first firearm. Europeans make the first firearm in the mid 14th century. It's pretty much downhill from there. But that's something we introduced into Europe. We didn't understand all that stuff was going to come back on us. Okay. This is why before you can understand the transatlantic slave trade, you got to understand that hundreds of years of history and the friction and the wars between these Africans and Europeans. The transatlantic slave trade is a continuation of that. Okay. So this is where this is why we have to understand where all this stuff comes from. And one of my teachers, Professor Kabahai Watha Kamene, formerly known as Booker T. Coleman, you see him in the Hidden Colors documentaries. We're in the Black Friday series and Elementary Genocide Part 3 together. He talks about how to understand the existence of something, you must first understand the pre-existence of existence. Okay. To understand the existence of something, you must first understand the pre-existence of existence. Okay. So this is why understanding this chronologically is so important. All right. Okay. And then also, if you like this type of information, if you want to donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show. You can do that also. Okay. Listen to our radio show, the African History Network show, Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, WFDF. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. The information is right on the homepage, how to listen around the world, listen to the podcast. And then we broadcast on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. And we upload it to our YouTube channel also, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. All right, how you doing, Tracy? On Facebook, okay. And those on Facebook, if you need me to post a link again to register for the online course, let me know. All right. And then, you know, on this Sunday show, I'm going to try to squeeze in a little information talking about the 4th of July, or the 4th of July, talk a little bit about Frederick Douglass also in his speech, What to the Slave is the 4th of July. It's very, very powerful. Okay. We posted we got it. Let's see. Let's do this here. We've got this. Okay, guys, look, I have to get out of here, teach this course. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. Okay, author, I just posted the link. Then also on Facebook in the description of this broadcast, the link is there as well. And then the same thing on YouTube as well. In the description, we have it. Okay. All right, guys, look, hey, I got to run. Right now is correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Wakanda is a real word also, by the way. It means possesses secret powers, which is similar to Black Girl Magic. We see Wakanda in Native American languages. Wakanda is also a Bantu word. Bantu is a group of 500 languages. You get it. I get deep into this in my lectures dealing with the film Black Panther. We'll talk some about that in the online course as well. All right. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Talk to you next time. Peace.